Where's the other belt? We need 2 belts for today's show. I only found this belt. Where's the other belt? I need 2 belts. Coming to you pre-tape from the Best Coast Show studios. This is the Best Coast Show. I'm your host, Albert Aguilera. That's my producer, Curtis Sage. Curtis, what kind of bullshit production are you running here? Where's my second belt?
Oh, I did not know we needed a second belt.
We need a second belt.
We have this belt.
We have this belt.
What's this belt for? What did you win?
This.
What's our championship here?
Our championship belt here is representing us as the #1 LA Kings video podcast.
That is true. We are that. What would be the second belt?
Are we #1 in anything else?
Dodgers?
No, we're not #1 in Dodgers. I know that.
We're close.
We're close.
We're going to take that.
We're going to challenge.
We're going to challenge.
We're going to challenge. Super fight. We'll set up a super fight. We'll
Between
find
the
out.
Girls. Dodgers Fans Weekly, right?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, Dodger Fans Weekly. The Twins.
Yeah.
We'll set up a super fight with the Twins.
Are they #1?
I'd imagine they're #1 because I can't think of
Dodger Nation doesn't have anything.
No, Dodger Nation doesn't have a video podcast.
Yes. We're not.
I can't think of any other Dodgers video podcast.
Yeah. Got it.
So I guess by default they became #1 the way we by default became #1 for the Kings.
True. This is perfect.
So we're gonna set up a super fight.
Yes. And that'd be a way for us to keep our crown, too, to have fights, right?
That's true. I like it.
Okay, good. All right, well, good. Today is a UFC episode. We're going to talk UFC 205. This was an exciting card. Miesha Tate retires. What do we do with Frankie Edgar? Joanna needs to be appreciated, apparently. Woodley wins in a 10-8. And we also now have our first 2 division champ, same time division champ. I mean, there's been multiple simultaneous division champ, the first time ever. So let's get started.
Let's get started indeed. The 2 division champ will do whatever the fuck he wants, and he doesn't need to apologize to anybody. Love it. That was a great post-fight speech. But yeah, okay, so there's a lot of confusion. Again, there's a lot of fans that are newer to the sport that, like I've spoken in earlier episodes, came in with the Fox era, and now we live in the WME era of the UFC. And here's the thing. Hockey fans, MMA fans, you guys are very similar. I'm a hockey fan. I'm an MMA fan. And the problem with the MMA community and the hockey community, very Smeagol-like, very like, my precious. Like, you don't want to share the thing. Like, understand that at some point, you were new to hockey, you were new to MMA, and accept new people. Now, granted, a lot of people say really stupid, ignorant things. I mean...
Well, there's a lot of dumb people out there.
There's a lot of dumb people out there. And a lot of people actually listen to our show and know that I say dumb, stupid, ignorant things sometimes.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
People just understand that these new people know the McGregor era, they know the Rousey era, they're not familiar with stuff from the Pride days and the WEC days. But having to go back to that, I need to check some of you Pride Never Die guys, because a lot of people kept saying, oh, Hendo was the first simultaneous champion and blah, blah, blah. But McGregor's not claiming to be the first ever champion. He's claiming to be the first ever in UFC history.
Yeah.
The UFC, I don't know if you've ever seen UFC events ever, but the UFC is very...
Live? In person?
Just in general. Yeah. The UFC and Dana White are very, very, very specific with saying in the history of the UFC.
Yes.
Not in history, not in world history.
Just the history
not
of
in
UFC.
Pride Never Die. Not in WEC days, not Strikeforce, not whatever Bellator's doing, not whatever the Russians are doing with M1 Global, none of that stuff. Just in the history of the UFC. Now, Hendo had that opportunity. Hendo came over from Pride when they merged, and then he went out and he fought Anderson Silva to unify the middleweight belt, and he lost. He then went out a few months later and fought Quinton Jackson for the light heavyweight title, which he lost in the unification bout. So he never was a UFC's simultaneous...
This is legitimate.
This is legitimate.
Yes.
Now, we've had BJ Penn and Randy Couture.
Yeah.
They were champs in multiple divisions, but never at the same time.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time. McGregor's the champ.
So McGregor, they didn't have 2 belts ready. He was pissed because they had his belt.
They had his belt.
But they didn't have the other belt.
But they didn't have his belt. They had Eddie Alvarez's belt because he fought for the 155 title.
Right.
He took Eddie Alvarez's belt, and he's all like, where the fuck is the second belt? $4.2 billion company, and you guys can't get me a second belt.
So what did they do?
They went out and got Tyrone Woodley's belt.
What?
And he didn't like that.
Woodley wasn't happy with that.
No, especially...
It was just for a photo op.
Right, and it was especially leading up to the card where him and McGregor kind of went at it via Twitter, and Woodley's like, don't ever call me a bitch. And McGregor just tweeted back, bitch.
That was it. Yeah.
That was it. So it's kind of like, okay. So now McGregor's like, yo, I'm like the greatest of all time. I set all your pay-per-view records. I set a Madison Square Garden record where if you try and wrap your head around that, it's pretty crazy considering the events that have played out in Madison Square Garden and the other fighters that have fought at Madison Square Garden.
It's pretty crazy. There hasn't been big fights at the Garden in a while, but you think about events like basketball and hockey or whatever. Obviously, the UFC can fit more people in because the ring is smaller. So you can fit more people on the floor. So I get it why it would be, but this is how many. It's not even about how many people were in the event; it's how much money.
The gate, the gate made over 17 million.
See, to me, that I think is the more mind-blowing thing, and it talks about the popularity of UFC and where it's obviously now headed. But also, you were talking about the weigh-ins. People were paying
over $100 to get into the weigh-ins.
Just to watch the weigh-ins.
Yeah, it's a weigh-in. It's not even a real weigh-in anymore because they weigh in by themselves in the morning.
Yeah,
and
this
they
is
just come in for a
ceremonial
type of weigh-in.
But people want to see that because it's fun. They have a chance.
It's theater.
Do they get a chance to take photos at those weigh-ins?
No, but they do get to ask questions after weigh-in. So that's why you always have those during the McGregor pressers and the McGregor weigh-ins. The drunk Irish fans that are just walking up to the microphone and saying like nonsense.
So the weigh-ins could be pretty fun.
The weigh-ins are pretty fun.
Okay, so that makes sense that people would, if they're in New York anyway and they're already going to the fight, let's go to the weigh-in. Might as well, right?
Yeah, and so now you have this 2-division champ who's going to hold up 2 divisions.
Yes. So is he running the show in UFC?
Well, he wants stocks in the company. He wants shares.
You mean he already doesn't have shares?
He doesn't have shares. And his logic was, hey, Tom Brady and Conan O'Brien have shares. How come I don't have shares? I don't believe that.
It's kind of a conflict of interest when a fighter has shares.
I don't believe WME will give him shares.
Until he retires.
Yeah, while he's fighting, they may come to an agreement. Hey, Conor, we'll give you X amount of percentage or whatever once you retire.
Yeah.
But it would be 100% conflict of interest for you to go in there and fight someone who owns shares in a company that you're fighting for.
Yeah. Does he not see that?
He didn't care. He does. He's 2-division champ. Does whatever the fuck he wants.
I get the does whatever the fuck he wants part, but I don't know that I don't know if he knows about conflict of interest. Maybe he's Irish and they don't have that concept. We have that here. You can't have just like our new president. He has some president-elect. He has some conflicts of interest in that he is well. We won't get into that. We're not gonna have politics talk. All right. So what about?
Wait. Were you out on the freeway causing traffic? You son of a bitch.
I was not.
Okay,
I did not cause traffic.
Okay, good. Don't cause traffic.
I felt like doing that.
No, you live in LA. Why would you cause traffic on purpose?
No, I didn't feel like it. No,
I don't care.
Those guys were idiots.
I don't care if you are trying to tell me you found the cure for cancer. If you're out on the freeway causing traffic on purpose, get the fuck out of here.
No, that should be a law that you should immediately go to jail if you cause more LA traffic. You're in jail for days.
Right.
Days. just
feel the suffering of everybody else.
We're pissed at you. You're in traffic for days, or they have to sit in traffic jams for like 8 straight days.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
All right. So who's McGregor fight next?
That's gonna be. Who in which class?
Here's what you do. Obviously the money fight is him versus Nate Diaz, number 3 at UFC 209 because it makes sense. 209 and Nate Diaz and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I got a better one for you. Conor McGregor versus George St. Pierre in Canada.
Wow.
That would break 2 million pay-per-views.
Yeah, because, why in Canada, though? In Toronto?
Yeah.
Is that
anywhere you can fit a ton of Canadians.
Well, it would be Toronto is their biggest city that they would do that in. You're just thinking that it would then bring these two, we'd have, all the fans, the American fans are going to, who are the American fans going to vote for?
I think the American fans.
There's a lot of.
I think the American fans would go more towards Conor McGregor. And here's one thing that I think is really cheap that the UFC does. They try to nationalize every fighter so that people can get behind them.
I like that.
That's cool. That's cool. But you can't do that with American fighters because America is fucking massive. There's 370 million people in this country, and we're all from a melting pot.
Yeah.
Fighters are rooted for regionally. That's why people from the Northeast, like Frankie Edgar and Chris Weidman, and people from the West Coast, from NorCal, like the Stockton boys, stuff like that. Yeah. But I think in a
so
fight,
regionally we can do it.
Yeah, we do it regionally. I think in a fight between McGregor and George St. Pierre, I think Americans would lean towards Conor McGregor, but I think that would definitely break 2 million pay-per-views.
Yeah, it would be big.
And holding up the divisions, it doesn't mean anything. In the UFC, no one deserves anything. It comes down to who can bring in more money. That's what it comes down to. Who could bring in more money?
Well, the reason why you're saying holding up divisions is that he's going to fight.
The belt's on hold.
He's going to fight in one of them next. So the other one is.
Maybe not. Maybe he fights at 170 against Tyron Woodley. Maybe he fights at 170 with George St. Pierre.
Yeah. The Woodley fight would be interesting just because of because A, he was wearing his belt. B, they were
Mystic
into it
Mac
before.
premonition right there. already wearing Woodley's belt.
Maybe that was the game plan from the start.
Could you imagine him, like, that would be the best troll job, winning a title in a division and never defending it, going to the next division and the next one?
Oh, boy.
That would be hilarious.
Could we go up in, so Woodley, being welterweight, could he go up to the welterweight?
He fought Nate Diaz at welterweight, but Nate Diaz is not Tyrone Woodley.
No, exactly.
He's not.
So, yeah, that's right. So Diaz.
I mean, it would be
Diaz is more of a puncher.
Yeah, and it would be a safer fight for Conor McGregor to fight George St. Pierre, even though George St. Pierre is one of the greatest of all time. George St. Pierre wasn't a knockout artist, was not a guy that was going to punish you. Yeah. He was a guy that was going to smother you on the ground. Yeah. And he's also significantly older, and he hasn't fought in 3 years.
Significantly older.
And he was also, like, you could see that in his last few fights, he was just, like, deteriorating.
Yeah, so again, what you think that's going to be a big draw because
money. It's names. That's all it is. That's all it
he
is.
has so many
because
fans.
Ferguson deserves a title shot. Normie deserves a title shot. Max Holloway deserves a title shot. Jose Aldo, who's the interim featherweight champion, deserves a title shot. But you know what? All four of those fuckers combined would not bring in what George St. Pierre would bring in.
True.
Or what another Nate Diaz fight would bring in.
But you got to also move the sport forward. I mean, you can't just...
Financially, they would. Just spent $4 billion on a company. You think you want to be fair? No, they cut costs. They fired a bunch of people, and they want to make more money.
Okay.
And George St. Pierre and Nate Diaz are the two biggest money fights they can bring on.
Interesting.
Do they deserve those title shots? Fuck no.
No. Okay, so what about Miesha Tate retiring? This is interesting.
Oh, that was sad. Miesha Tate was one of my favorite, favorite people to watch.
I always get concerned. I mean, she's 30, so she's older. I mean, we don't really. I don't know. It's hard to gauge, ages with the female fighters now. I don't know how far they can really go. I mean, we're not. I don't know that we're going to see women fighting into their late 30s.
Hendo style when they're 40 something, 46.
Yeah, I don't know that that's gonna. But Miesha Tate's 30, so I feel like she's right at the height of her career, but. Maybe she's gotten hit in the head just one too many times and doesn't want to have permanent...
Her fighting style kind of leads to that.
Exactly.
Because Miesha Tate, like we've talked about before, she was never the best at any one particular skill set.
Yeah.
She was the best at grit, at grinding you down, having tenacity, that fucking lion heart. You were not going to put this woman away.
But it's a brawl.
Yeah. This is the woman that, snatched the victory from the claws of defeat. And, what that tells you is that you're probably getting your ass kicked, and you have a lot of miles on you because your fighting style was, I'm going to get punched in the face a bunch
and she did.
And grind you down. And she did. And she was exciting to watch. She was just a grinder. Like, this woman wouldn't give up, and she would somehow get that win, get that submission, get that knockout, get that decision win usually.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy because a lot of people were like, oh, Ronda brought women's MMA into the UFC, blah, blah. But the fight that really put women's MMA on the map, outside of that Cyborg Justino and Gina Carano fight, was Miesha Tate versus Ronda Rousey #1. That, I believe, was on Showtime. That fight, it was that was a spectacle. People were like, "Holy shit!" Like, women can fight. And I'll be the first person to admit that I was 100% on the Dana White thing with the whole women shouldn't be in the UFC, because if you ever saw a lot of women's fighting with the Elite XC and the Gina Carano era, there was two women that were really good at it, Carano and Cyborg. And you look at the other women, and they looked like two women that were in a Taibo class. And it was always one girl that knew how to fight versus one that was just kind of flailing and would get her ass beat. So it wasn't competitive.
It's not the case anymore, though.
But that is not the case at all anymore. And Miesha Tate was one of the women that helped pioneer that and bring in actual competitive, well-rounded women that have the actual skill set to compete and fight. Where I would 100% be down to drop $60 on a pay-per-view to watch Miesha Tate fight.
Sure. But since she lost to Pennington, I mean, do you feel like that if she would have won, would she have stayed in?
It feels like she would have. I mean, she's out there and she's like, hey, I've taken a lot of damage, and the outcome of this fight, is why I'm retiring.
Yeah.
And she looked a little off in that fight, but at the same time, you're 30 years old, you've been fighting professionally for 10 years. You could be 18, retiring at 28. It's just how many miles are on that body from getting beat up. And
the question is she made enough money? Probably has.
I'm willing to bet. I mean, she headlined UFC 200.
Yeah.
She has sponsorships. She does commentary. She has a gym. She does a lot of things.
She has the gym.
Does she have George St. Pierre money or Ronda Rousey money, McGregor money? No, but
she's cute.
Yeah, and if you're well, she did the body issue of is it Sports Illustrated?
Sports Illustrated.
Yeah. If she knows how to manage her money, I'm sure she'll be fine.
Yeah,
and
so she's got her own gym.
She's got her own gym, and then she can do commentary work. There's other outlets for her. There is. I mean, it was great to have seen her fight. So I know it's eventually going to happen to every fighter, but it just kind of bums you out when one of your favorite fighters is like, hey, done.
Yeah. And she is.
But we'll see if she does stay retired. I mean, we'll see what happens in a year.
What about Edgar? I mean, Edgar, beat Stevens. What's the...
I don't know what to do with Frankie Edgar.
Why?
Frankie Edgar's 6-4 in his last 10 fights. Those
Kinda
4
middle,
losses come to championship fights. It was 2 to Henderson, 2 to Aldo. I mean, this guy, 155 champ, competed at 145 for the belt. I mean, realistically, he could drop to 135 because he walks around at 155 pounds anyways. So he can cut down to 135 and try and fight down there. Maybe he can give Dominic Cruz a run for his money. But you kind of see him as the Uriah Faber guy now. Yeah. That Uriah's going to retire.
Just at the edge, he can't.
Just at the edge. Can't get over that hump of beating whoever the current champion in his division is. And if I'm Frankie Edgar, I could try for 135, but I don't feel like dieting. I would just take the money fights.
Yeah.
Find the best fights at 145, 155, and take the money fights.
How old is Edgar?
Oh, Edgar's 34, 35.
Yeah, so he may have a year or two more of kind of prime fighting. Yeah. But
they can make him a gatekeeper.
Yeah, so you're saying he's not gonna probably win any belts at this point.
No, because he fights at 145, 155, and McGregor's holding up those divisions. But if he goes down to 135, I mean, it would be good money, and it would be a good pay-per-view sell to put Dominic Cruz and Frankie Edgar in a cage together.
Okay, so Joanna needs to be appreciated. Why?
Because people are a bunch of haters.
Why?
Because Joanna is like...
I think nobody can say her fucking name. That's why.
Yon Jacek? Yon Jacek?
Just the champ. That's what we're going to call it. Champy.
Joanna Champion. It's easier for people to say
I can say Joanna Champy. That's easier.
All right, this woman, in my opinion, is the best striker on the UFC's women's roster.
Good. Yeah.
She's very technical. She's very fast. She doesn't have the knockout power, but she'll beat you to death with a million punches.
Yeah.
And she's so good in the cage, and she's so fucking good outside of the cage too, with like her social media. And she's Polish. English is her second language, but she's really good with the mic.
Yeah.
And people don't appreciate her the way they don't appreciate Mighty Mouse. And it's just it goes back to that casual fan, the fan that only tunes in because I know the name Ronda, I know the name McGregor, but it's kind of like there are other fighters that if you actually saw the card or paid attention and not just dismiss it because, the women are fighting and it's not Ronda. If you actually paid attention to the way Joanna comes in, to the pressers, to the weigh-ins, all the build-up, and then the actual fight where she goes in there, just fucking demolishes her opponents and picks them apart. Like, you would learn to appreciate that better as a fan if you actually knew what you were watching. But a lot of fans... don't. Fans, I use that with the air quotes.
Yeah. Is 125, is that, I mean...
Strawweight.
I know. And is that, do you think also that kind of holds her back as well? Because there's not a lot
No, there's a ton of competition at 125 and... I'm sorry, at 115. There's a lot of competition at 115 for strawweight at 115 and 135. Where there is no depth is for Cyborg at 145. That's why the UFC doesn't have that 145 division. And they've talked about putting in a 125 division, which would be really cool because you'd get like these...
That would be better.
I don't want to say super fights, but you'd get these really interesting fights with the women cutting down to 125 from 35 and coming up to...
Yeah.
I mean...
Just having that other division in there, I think, would help too. So people who don't have to cut as much weight, but they can, get more exciting fights without having to put their body through that toll of cutting. I'm going to cut 20 pounds to go down. That's a lot.
Yeah, and it's significantly harder for a woman to cut weight than a man. So
what about Woodley wins?
It's a win. A tie is a win. It goes to the champion.
I don't get that.
I saw the fight. There was confusion at the end.
Yeah.
Buffer came out and called it a split decision win when it was a majority draw. 2 of the 3 judges had it as a draw. The 3rd judge had it for Tyron Woodley, 48-47. Personally, I had it as a draw. I had Wonder Boy winning 3 rounds, but he lost the 4th round in a 10-8, and that's why there was a draw. I mean, that was a really good fight. It was a really close fight. You can see that both fighters were very cautious because Tyron Woodley was kind of like, okay, at some point he's going to try and kick me. And at the same time, Wonder Boy was kind of like, okay, at some point that right hand's going to come in and drop me. And it did. And that's why that 4th round went 10-8. But one of the judges gave Woodley a 10-8 for the 1st round, but not the 4th round. And it's kind of like, And that's what I hate about 10-8 rounds, where a lot of people are really quick to give them. And I'm kind of like, well, if you gave it there, why didn't you give it here?
Yeah,
Were you not paying attention? Were you looking down, typing notes, or staring at your phone? What the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. So Woodley was, he wins still, but it's not kind of bittersweet a little bit, and that you don't. I mean, you're not. People are kind of talking about it now that it's really a draw, and they look at it a little differently, or no?
I don't think so. I mean, it was a good fight. They're going to rematch. Okay. Dana said they're having the rematch. So now Damian Maia has to sit around and wait at welterweight. But McGregor should just be like, no, I'm fighting Woodley next. That's what McGregor should do.
That would be interesting, like we said. So what about Ramiro? I mean, this guy, he has a nickname, Soldier of God.
The
Why
Soldier of God, because
this?
he's like super Christian. He's friends with gay Jesus.
He is?
With gay Jesus.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't... All right. So he's a soldier of God, and
he's going to go fight ISIS.
Really?
Yeah.
But he's Cuban.
But he's Cuban.
Okay, what does that have to do with ISIS?
Because he's super Christian, and he's going to go fight the ISIS
Christians versus the Islams.
Back to the Middle Ages.
Okay. This dude is this sculpted, crazy...
He's 39 years old, and it looks like
everybody.
he was fucking chiseled from one like slab of granite.
And he wrecks everybody right now when he's at... So what's our outlook on him?
I don't like him. I think he's a cheater.
Because I mean, he did get popped.
Well, I'm gonna completely ignore the fact that he looks like a bodybuilder toy soldier figurine, and he's 39 years old.
Yeah.
I'm gonna completely ignore the fact that he's Cuban. I'm gonna completely ignore the fact that he got popped for a tainted substance, which USADA then found out that in fact was a tainted supplement. But I'm not gonna overlook the fact that anytime he's struggling in between rounds, he pretends not to know English.
Yeah.
He sits around longer than he should. He comes out into the fights soaked in water, and it's like, bro, all you're doing is wasting time on purpose to catch your breath.
Yeah.
Everyone sees that.
He's out of shape.
What are you doing? It was not that he's out of shape. He just has no cardio because he has so much muscle on him, and that much muscle requires more oxygen.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But he's like, the dude's undefeated. I mean, he beat Lyoto. He beat Chris Weidman. He beat Tim Kennedy. Brunson. Like, this guy has wrecked fighters. I just don't like him as a fighter. I think he cheats in between rounds.
Huh. Okay. Who's he fighting next?
Well, he should be fighting Michael Bisping for the title.
That's right. And who's going to win that? That's going to be a good match, I think. He's bigger than Bisping?
I'm going to say that Michael Bisping is going to go out there and defend his belt successfully against Yoel Romero, because the Michael Bisping we see today is not the Michael Bisping of 5 years ago. This Michael Bisping is older. He knows he can't go in there and bang. Exactly. He's wiser. And what he's going to do is he's going to try to stay away from Romero at distance, try and pick him apart, use his overhand left like he did against Luke Rockhold, and avoid getting knocked out. Because if it's a championship fight, it has to go 5 rounds in a championship fight, right? In the event that it goes to a decision. I think that Michael Bisping's cardio can outlast Yoel Romero.
Yeah. And the fans it'll be depending on where that fight is.
Do it in Manchester.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Michael Bisping's he's 36 years old. He's trying to capitalize on money fights as much as he can. Sure. That's why when Jacare became available to fight, he was kind of like, oh, well, my eye's all fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's why he wanted to fight Nick Diaz or George St. Pierre, because like he said, I'll make $6-7 million if I fight those guys.
Yeah.
Jacare, I'll be lucky if I make a quarter of that, because it's not a draw.
Bisping.
I mean, Romero's not going to bring in any fucking money. I can guarantee you right now.
Bisping's a big draw right now.
He's a big draw.
Everybody likes him. He's funny.
He's a commentator on Fox. Yeah. He's a good-looking guy. He's been in the sport forever. Yeah. He's got a huge following in the UK. He's the first English-born fighter to be champion. So he's got a following. So put his title fight, his title defense
in Manchester.
Put it in England.
Is he from Manchester?
No, he's from Wales. I think he's from Wales.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We talked about that on the show.
Yeah.
All right, good. So what is our gift of the day?
All right, guys, gift of the day, going back to Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping decided, hey, you know what? I need to go take a piss. So he went to the bathroom in Madison Square Garden, and someone recognized that Michael Bisping was taking a piss. So this guy decided to start filming Michael Bisping taking a piss. Who
films people taking pisses?
Seriously. That's kind of weird. And then everyone else started filming him taking a piss, and they started chanting for him, and he was like a good sport about it.
Yeah.
But guys, I understand, you guys... Curtis and I, we work in the industry. We're around celebrities and important people all the time, and we're born and raised in LA, so it's kind of like not a big deal for us.
But we also know don't take video of people taking a piss.
It's like, be a little courteous.
Yeah.
Like,
They're
people like you too. You piss too. Let them leave them alone. They're in the fucking
they're
bathroom.
washing their hands or something,
right?
I don't know. Although Bisping could have made that really funny if he wanted to.
He was cool about it.
He's a funny dude.
I'm sure he thought it was weird as fuck, but he was cool about it.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. Anyways, that was our gift for the day. But that's been our show. Don't forget to stalk us on Twitter at Best Coast Show. Check out the behind the scenes on Instagram at Best Coast Show. You can find us on where? On iTunes. And are we on Stitcher?
I think so.
SoundCloud, and really anywhere that podcasts are heard. So, and check out our website, www.bestcoastshow.com, because we've got some new articles up. And
we have a UFC article up right now.
We just put up a UFC article, right? For Cyborg.
Cyborg retweeted it.
Cyborg retweeted it. She likes our stuff.
She shared
We got to get her on the show.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, that's been our show, and you guys have a good night.